HARK, we are here. It is time for yet another adventure into Star Wars Unlimited. Today, it's kind of a mishmash week. We've got a lot of creator previews coming to us. It is also the beginning of Aspect Month, because right after this video, not immediately, but close enough, over on the FFG YouTube channel, the Aspect Preview stream will be happening, and we can all talk about that as it happens. Cunning best aspect. I will say, preface this whole video with, this is the second time I've had to record all this audio. I made a huge error, unforced error, on Friday during my actual live stream that I do over on twitch.tv/RybackStun, and forgot to switch things back. So I have about an hour's worth of audio that is completely worthless to me, and I'm not gonna try to match up audio with visuals to do crazy dumb things. So we're gonna redo this whole thing, complete with updated views on the cards as we've seen them, newer cards as they've come out over the weekend, and all kinds of other fun stuff. Here goes take 2 of the calm before the storm. Our first batch of previews comes by way of Brettballett, which I believe is how the name is pronounced. I apologize if I got it incorrect. A German language streamer that managed to get 2 previews for us to be able to showcase. And the first one here is a very interesting one. Link to these previews in the description below. And let's get right to it. We have here the Ardent Sympathizer, a 3-cost aggression ground unit, 3 power, 3 health trooper. While you have the initiative, this unit gets +2/+0. It is number 161 out of 252 in SOR, and it is a common. Little Celestian dude. Blasting. Anyway, I started blasting, right? This is a very interesting card. This showcases continued reliance of aggression on having the initiative, which I think is actually counterproductive to the way that most people are going to play aggression. It's gonna be play cards, attack, and you're gonna have more things to do than your opponent does. So unless you do a style of aggression that's more just put one thing on the ground, attack, claim, put one thing on the ground, attack, claim, rather than go wide if you go tall, that might be a style that works. And this does fit into that a little bit by making this a 5-3 when you have the initiative. But I don't think that's the purpose of what you want to use this guy for. You want to stick this dude in a trooper deck so you can get trooper shenanigans, or something that passively gives you a bonus across the board. So even though I may not think that IG-88 is a very strong leader, I think Ardent Sympathizer fits right in perfectly with that, because if you have the initiative and your leader is deployed, this Ardent Sympathizer is now attacking for 6 plus any other buffs you can get across the board, right? It's not really a mid-range unit. It's definitely still an early game unit because you can play this on round 2, but he's going to be more effective in the mid era of the game, where you've already done a couple things and then you're just trying to stick bodies on the board so you can start hitting face with your units. It's cool art. It's a cool dude. You can see the little laser blasting through. It's not something that I'm thinking I'm going to run immediately, but I think this is actually going to be very good in limited, draft and sealed, because the conventions of constructed are not in limited, which means you don't have your entire card pool available. You only have what you've pulled or what you've drafted. And I think this is definitely a good middle of the pack pull the card if it's still there a couple picks down the line in your pack, or if it's part of your sealed pool and you're playing aggression, this goes in pretty much hands down. I think this is actually a decent unit that is going to see some play, but is not going to be one of those this is the greatest card ever type things. This next card is a doozy. It's the largest unit we've seen. It's the Big Chungus, and I am ready to deep dive into this. We have here Lord Vader's Star Destroyer itself, the Devastator, inescapable. 10 cost, command villainy space unit, 10 power, 10 health, Imperial vehicle capital ship, Sentinel, Overwhelm. When played, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of resources you control. It is number 90 of 252. It is a legendary, and it is from SOR. This boy big. This is the card that you build your deck around in command villainy to sit there and say, cool, I've got this guy on board. You have to deal with it or it is going to deal with you. And even if you deal with it, it still took some stuff out on the way out, right? Because you get that when played, unless you're doing something like Galactic Ambition or some other way to cheat this into play, you're going to be paying 10 for it, which means it's going to be dealing 10 damage to a unit your opponent controls. That right, gone. Just get it out of my face. Just gone. Space or ground. Sentinel means that if your opponent has stuff in space, they have to go through this. Nothing is getting through this in one shot unless they just put a huge amount of effort into it, right? Overwhelm. When this attacks one of your opponent's units, the leftover damage goes straight into the base. This thing is nuts, and it combos off of every other thing that Command Villainy wants to do. Tarkin gives it tokens. The unit Tarkin can pull off the top of your deck. Piet allows you to ambush it in. You get to add the extra attack from Overwhelming Barrage and just blow up a huge chunk of the board if you get this out and are able to do this. The Devastator is one of those big bombs that people want to see in a game where they just go, cool, I've got 10 resources, slam, deal with this. And I love it. I love this card so much that it's on the verge, depending on other things that we might see in the future, of completely shifting me off of what my initial goal is to build decks in the game. Because the initial goal, as I've stated before, Boba Fett, Sabine, Ren. Heroism deck with Sabine and a Villainy deck with Boba Fett. And each of them do interesting things. Sabine is that attacks matter aggro deck that I really like. Boba Fett's a little bit more control, but has a lot of damage capacity with its resource getting backing and things like Bosk, being able to shoot first, all these other different things, shoot first the event. But Devastator here is a Command Villainy. I think Command Villainy Vigilance, this card fits into very well because you play that mid-game control level and then you drop the Devastator and go, deal with this. And if your opponent can't deal with it, you win. And if they can deal with it, well, they took a lot of resources to do it, and you can still continue to control the board with the rest of the stuff that you have. I love this card. It might be my favorite legendary we've seen, and we've seen a lot of them. Who knows what other shenanigans are going to be able to, because again, Imperial Vehicle Capital Ship. If we get Capital Ship shenanigans, Devastator. If we get more vehicle shenanigans, boom, Imperial Vehicle, Capital Ship, all of it. More shenanigans, this thing just gets nuts. And remember, it's when playability is equal to the number of resources you control. So if you play this after you're at 10, like let's say you're at 15, boom, it comes in and just blasts a single thing for 15 damage. Unless you've got a shield, nothing's surviving that. This is a fantastic card, and I'm excited to be able to try to grab these and play this at least in a fun deck to take to weeklies, if not potentially a competitive deck that's going to see high-level play. Our next previews come by way of the ScrawlLP YouTube channel. They threw out a YouTube short, again, another German language channel. I don't speak German, so I didn't get to check out the whole thing, but we got some cool cards. And the first one is a very cheap unit that I think goes well with the rest of things we might be seeing in the near future here. We have here the Mining Guild TIE Fighter, 1 cost cunning space unit, 1 power, 2 health, fringe vehicle fighter. On attack, you may pay 2 resources. If you do, draw a card. It is a common. It is number 206 out of 252 in SOR. This is the type of unit that you want to run in your deck when you're running a lot of space, or you need something that you absolutely must play on round 1 to prepare yourself to be able to do things on round 2, or help recover from not having a round 2 play, especially if this survives. This thing is not going to survive very many attacks, but it will force your opponent to do something to deal with it. Otherwise, you're going to be drawing cards. 2 cost for 1 card is expensive, but it does provide you an opportunity of utilizing extra resources that you might have lying around extra, or utilizing your resources to help you dig for answers that you might need at a later date. One of the big things I think about this specific card is that this is going to be an early game use, but your mid to late game, like late, mid, early, late, I know that doesn't really make sense, but that time period of being able to utilize your extra resources to dig, because if you're digging any further than that for something to save yourself or to win, you've probably already lost the game by that point. But I think this is a great little card. Most opponents are going to initially ignore it because it's only doing 1 damage, right? But if you can buff it, cool, it's now dealing more damage. But even beyond that, if you can just get the 1 attack, it's basically already paid for itself because it's 1 resource for 1 damage, then you pay the 2 to draw the card. It refills itself eventually with resources later on. Like I said, they might be spare, or you might designate them towards this specific purpose. Drawing cards is always good, always good. The circumstances surrounding drawing the cards are not necessarily always as good, but drawing cards is always good. This is going to be another one of those units that does really well in limited, because there's not going to be a lot of options that you're pulling out of your packs or drafting that deal with space units. So by having the Mining Guild TIE Fighter available to you to do those little extra plinks in space and draw your cards, you're getting closer and closer to your victory conditions in situations where you're not going to be able to filter as much. Mining Guild TIE Fighter, I think, is a great little space unit. 1 of, 2 of, 3 of, that's going to be up to an individual person's discretion. And as we see more cards, those ratios might change from person to person, deck to deck, game to game. But it will be interesting to see how this fits into the larger meta once we see the whole set. Our next card here is another banger of a card. We got 2 really solid bangers in what we've seen so far per this video. We have here Search Your Feelings, a 4-cost Vigilance Villainy innate event. Search your deck for a card and draw it, then shuffle your deck. It is rare. It is number 42 out of 252 in SOR. This is our first example of a tutor. And if you don't know what a tutor is, back in Magic the Gathering, where most of these terms come from, there were cards that were called tutor, Enlightened Tutor, Worldly Tutor, a couple other ones, Demonic Tutor, that would allow you to pull a card from your deck and put it in your hand or put it on top of your deck. That's generally where the tutor term comes from. It's basically taking something that you didn't have access to in your deck, putting it into a location where it's easier to access, and then you just move, right? So while this is an expensive card for 4 costs, it says for 4, take any card in your deck, put it in your hand. Draw it is a specific term, which means that it will interact with anything that triggers off of drawing cards, which will be interesting in the future, I imagine, because otherwise you wouldn't use that specific verbiage for doing the action of taking the card and putting it in your hand from your deck. But this can be used for multiple different things. It can help you grab something you need to eliminate another unit. It can allow you to grab a combo piece to set yourself up for winning in the future. It can help you draw your big bomb if you've been waiting for that and it's stuck at the bottom of your deck, to be able to bring that into your hand for use in future rounds. Tutors are very, very good. They take time because you have to search through your deck, grab your card, shuffle, 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 so on and so forth. But they are almost always relevant in the situations that they're printed. FFG is trying to be safe here in terms of what they're allowing you to do with these types of things. And I think this ties a little bit into the way that they're doing card draw, where aggression just gets naked natural card draw cards, and command is able to look at the top cards of their deck, pull something specific to their hand, and put the rest of it at the bottom. Vigilance looks like it's going to be potentially picking specific things from the deck and taking it to hand. It also could be that this is the only source of tutoring we get in the entire game for the first set. That's possible, potentially even likely. But with Cunning also kind of having the look at the top card of the deck and then do something with it, that's 4 different styles of quote-unquote card draw or card advantage, realistically, that is spread across the way that the style aspects work in the game. And I think that's neat design, so long as they keep it, you know, enclosed and not like super available or super powerful. Search Your Feelings is effectively the 3rd or 4th copy of whatever card you're trying to make sure you get into your hand in each of your decks that you play. If you are playing Vigilant Villainy, you are absolutely playing this card, even if it's just a 1 of. Because remember, if you're searching for that Devastator and you're running 3 Devastators, Search Your Feelings is the 4th copy of that card, because it just says, go fetch me, and you fetch it. And that is fantastic. Our next card preview comes by way of the Spice Squadron over on YouTube, link below. And this is a fun card. This is a card that I think immediately slots into a couple different types of decks, but is a card that's going to make players think about the way that they take actions within each round as they play the game. We have here the Lethal Insurgent, 2 cost Cunning Heroism ground units. It's a 3/2 rebel. When played, if you played another card this phase, each opponent draws a card, then discards a random card from their hand. It's a common. I believe it is number 190 out of 252 in SOR. This is an early game drop. Because it's 2 cost, it is a card that you can play on round 1 to prepare yourself to be able to attack on the next turn. I think that is the most viable place for the Lethal Insurgent to exist. Fish for it to get it on your first round, to play it to be able to attack with a 3 power on the next turn. Its when played ability should at all times, unless your deck is focusing on it, be considered a bonus, because it means you can get rid of potentially something important from your opponent's hand with that discard. But it also means that it can trigger with other things that if you are trying to go with a mill strategy or a hand control style quote unquote strategy, which there's not a lot in the game so far, but what little there is interesting. Lethal Insurgent can do that. You can play 1 card, then you can play the Lethal Insurgent, and then it deals its thing, and then it's available to be used as a body on the next turn. This fits nicely in the Spectre deck in combination with Kanan, especially if you decide to go Command Cunning. I wouldn't run this if you weren't running Cunning in any deck or the Spectre deck, but I think Cunning might be one of the best options for Spectres because of the ability to use Shoot First, Asteroid Sanctuary, Surprise Strike, and Waylay, because those events are very strong. I like Rebels. I like Lethal Insurgents. We've got a Rocket Insurgent ready to blow things up, and that's fantastic. Our last preview comes by way of the Unlimited FFG Twitter account. It's the first of our 4 Cunning Month previews that people vote on. The community decided to vote for base because they were trying to fish out the epic action base, which they were successful at. And well, let's just take a look at it. We have here Jeddah City. It is the Cunning Epic Action Base, 25 health, like the other 3 Epic Action bases. It has Epic Action, give a non-leader -4 power, -0 health for this phase. It's got the keyword Jeddah, which probably won't mean anything, but it's a nice little flavor bit. It is a rare, obviously, as the Epic Action bases are, number 28 out of 252 in SOR. If you have watched my videos, or my streams, or know me IRL, you can kind of tell with the pacing of my words and the way that I'm presenting myself right now, I am trying as hard as I can not to be insanely negative. And I'm a little disappointed that the last preview I get to preview for this video for the week is ending on such a sour note. This is an absolutely terrible card. This is worse than the shield. It is worse than the damage on a damaged unit. And it is certainly worse than the ambush, which is actually good. I already expected that unless it was a hyper-specific situation, or if for some reason you can put bases in your sideboard where you can go between the regular and the epic action, that the 25 health bases would not be worth running because that 5 health is so huge, especially when most metas, as they develop, aggro is a very strong strategy to begin with until the game evens out. The alternating action style of this game does actually favor aggro because it means there's more hits that can happen and your opponent has less opportunities to stop you from doing so given the alternations. I am actually very disappointed that a place this cool, Jeddah City, is wasted on such a bad ability. This ability is absolutely terrible. I understand people are going to say, well, it stops a unit from smashing into you for a phase, and sure. But if this was give a non-leader units -5, -0, there would at least be an evening out that for 1 action in 1 phase, potentially 2 depending on readying shenanigans, you would save yourself 5 health. But only 4 is just, there are opportunities where you can epic action to take a sentinel down to 0 attack and then clear the sentinel with another attacking unit, or you put it on your opponent's big leader, non-leader units that's going to be attacking you the next turn, so it doesn't do as much damage. This is what we call a lose less effect. If you don't know, there's a term called win more, which a win more effect is something that while you're winning, it allows you to win more. And a lot of people don't like those style effects for whatever reason, because it comes down to, well, I'm already winning. I don't need to win more. I just need to win. Forgetting sometimes that you actually have to get to the point of winning, actually winning the game, and win more gets you there, right? Lose less is the type of thing of, well, I'm already losing. This helps me lose a little bit less. But if you're already losing, you're in a bad place and this effect is not going to help you. The 25 health epic action bases are not going to be, with the exception of command, the viable base to use for you to play the game. 5 health is not worth a shield. 5 health is not worth 3 damage on a damaged unit. 5 health is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, not worth -4 attack for a phase. Non-leader unit, by the way. So if your opponent's got their leader and that's all they have, and this is what you've got, tough. The Energy Conversion Lab is the only 25 health base that's actually worth it because the value you can get out of a 6 cost or less unit to ambush is actually genuinely good. But that is all she wrote for us today. I know we kind of ended on a sour note, and I do apologize about that. I had already edited, so there was no way to reformat the video. There is, it just would take more work that I don't really want to put into it right now. But with all that negativity aside, the rest of the cards were really cool. Right after this, we'll be taking a look at the Cunning Aspect preview that's coming out on the FFG YouTube channel. Again, link below. So we get to have fun with all kinds of cool stuff there and see what new cunning things are coming. I figured that the epic action base would not be as good. I just didn't think it was going to be that bad. But ultimately, I am still excited for the game. I knew going in that 30 health bases were going to be better in almost every circumstance, and that still basically remains true unless you're playing Command and you really want that ambush. Aside, tell me what you think about Jeddah City and all the other previews that we saw today for Star Wars Unlimited. Let me know what you're excited about for Cunning. I'm excited for the other Cunning villainy leader and the other Cunning heroism leader, neither of which we'll probably see in the preview itself, but I'm excited to see more ground units. I'm excited to see more events because Cunning has some strong events and all kinds of good stuff. So with that, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Blue Sky, Mastodon, Instagram, not TikTok, on all the different social medias that are available that I am on. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Bad takes or not, that's a joke. And we'll see you in the stars.